Welcome back. You're watching The Big Fight and now in this part of the broadcast we are joined in by Amish Tripathi. He's a noted author of the Shiva trilogy as well as the Ramchandra series. Thank you very much, Amish, for joining us. He's on a tour of India because his latest book, War of Lanka, is now out. Amish, you're also the director of the Nehru Centre in London. Thank you very much for speaking to NDTV. My first question, congrats on the book. How's the response been?
Thank you, Sanket. Absolute pleasure connecting with you. Fortunately, the response has been very good. You know, I luckily continue to receive love from my readers. In fact, War of Lanka is selling at an even faster pace than Ravan. The gods have been kind. Lord Shiva has been kind.
Lord Shiva has been kind. Huh? In fact, you've been quoted as saying in the past that Lord Shiva writes your books. He just makes you write it. You've been a best-selling author. Do you feel nervous before a launch?
Interesting question, Sanket. I have to admit, while writing, I don't feel any nervousness at all. Because while writing, frankly,
I'll tell you why I asked this question.
Honestly, don't really care about anyone else. I only focus on writing. I let the process flow. I let the book flow through me. I don't think about anyone else. Not the publisher, not the editors, not critics, media, or frankly, even the readers. But before the promotion phase, yes, I get very nervous. थोड़ा responsibility भी आ जाता है, because the publisher invests a large amount of money in my books. The print runs tend to be reasonably high. So I have this pressure on me. I have to make sure that all those books sell out and the publisher doesn't lose any money. Fortunately, this one is looking like even in this one, the publisher will make money from this.
Perfect. Good. All the best. But now for a more fundamental question. In this age of Netflix, binge watching, OTT platforms, are people even reading, Amish?
Well, luckily for me, they are. But you make a good point there, Sanket. Look, it's like this. The way I see it, people will always absorb stories, right? The medium to absorb those stories may change. So when we are talking about a book, essentially this book in this structure emerged, around say 600, 700 years ago with the Gutenberg press. Before that, books used to be handwritten, as you know, the illustrated, inscribed books that were made. I'm sure when printed books came up, many of those who used to write books earlier would have thought, oh, the art of storytelling itself will die out. No, it just changed to a different medium. What I suspect is happening with Netflix and with various other avenues that have opened up is that stories can be conveyed through another medium. And in a sense, I like OTT, what are called OTT platforms, essentially Netflix, Amazon Prime, Sony Live, all the others, there are there, Hotstar, etc. Essentially, when you have the gift of time, when it's a 10-episode season, you can build characters just like you can in a novel. In a short movie of just 2.5 hours, it's very difficult to have a deeper storytelling. So a novelist will never like, writing for a film. Rarely will a novelist like writing for a film because, you simply don't have the gift of time. But in a OTT platform, you have the gift of time. Actually, that can also be great storytelling. But fortunately, books continue to sell, at least some books. So I am lucky in that score. I continue to receive the love of my readers. Sometimes it's tough love. For example, this book was a little delayed. So, I live in London. There were times when I posted tweets or, Instagram posts that I'm cycling at Hyde Park. And I would get scolded in the comments. Why am I wasting time? Go home and write. Get the book out quickly. That was tough love.
Well, I mean, you earned this for yourself. Amish, how difficult is it to tell stories that most already know about? I mean, you're writing Shiva trilogy, the Ramchandra series. Now, these are stories that people already know about and everybody has an opinion on it. So how difficult is this process?
Good question. Look, Sanket, it's like this. there is both an opportunity and a challenge. The opportunity is that most Indians, practically all Indians, regardless of religion, caste, class, gender, region, language spoken, practically all Indians never tire of hearing stories of our gods and goddesses, of the Ramayana, Mahabharata and the Puranas. And this has been our way for thousands of years. So people always want to hear these stories. And they want to hear them in different ways, in different perspectives, in different, parts of it, all the way from Bhasa and Kalidasa to modern, and then, of course, in the traditional various versions of the Ramayana, Mahabharata, Puranas. So there is that opportunity. Indians have a natural interest in this for thousands and thousands of years. The challenge is to make sure that you present your interpretation in a respectful manner, so that it appeals. Indians are very comfortable with a different truth, but it must be presented in a respectful manner. And in a sense, you shouldn't. It's difficult to see it as a strategy. If you're genuinely respectful as an artist about these stories, it will come out. The intentions become very clear.
But Amish, let's dwell on that a little. You see, mythological tales are a powder keg for filmmakers, even for writers. You feel tales like Ramayana cannot withstand sort of a reimagined narration. Case in point, the Adipurush controversy on how Ravan was imagined.
Sanket, what I think happens, and I will not comment on this specific case because frankly I haven't seen the movie, I haven't seen the teaser as well, so I don't know the nature of the debates that are happening. But at a broader level, the way I see it, if an artist writes and promotes with respect, controversies don't happen, whether they are interpretations of the Ramayana, or interpretations of the Mahabharata, or interpretations of the Puranas. We can of course see examples of this in ancient times. For example, Bhasa's Pancharatra, one of the greatest Sanskrit playwrights ever, Bhasa's Pancharatra, reimagined a very significant part of the Mahabharata completely. And in fact, the war didn't happen in Bhasa's interpretation. And it's one of the greatest classics. It remains alive to this day. Goswami Tulsidas ji's Ramcharitmanas doesn't have the the Uttarkand, which is of course there in the Valmiki Ramayana. That's a very significant change. In the modern day, look at movies. So if someone suggested to an Indian filmmaker, I've quoted this example a few times. If someone suggested to an Indian filmmaker to shoot a scene where the main lead actor breaks the base of a shivling and then carries it on his shoulder, and then places it under a waterfall, most Indian filmmakers would say, have you gone mad? But in the hands of a genuine devotee, such as Rajamouli ji, it becomes one of the most iconic scenes of Indian cinema in Bahubali. I think Indians have a heart large enough to accept different truths, as long as the intentions are good, as long as it is made with respect. And another example, if I may say so, are my books. My books aren't really secrets. They've sold, by Lord Shiva's grace, some 6 million copies. My publishers tell me that the Shiva trilogy is the fastest selling in Indian publishing history, and the Ramchandra series is the second fastest selling book series. You won't find any controversies around me. So my submission is that if an artist writes and promotes with respect, Indians can see those intentions. And then it's not really a powder keg at all. There's no controversy.
Okay. But as a writer of the Shiva trilogy, and given the fact that Ravan was a devout Shiv Bhakt, how do you imagine Ravan? And how should Ravan be imagined? Because, through the course of this debate, a lot of people said that this is an insult in the Sanatan Dharma. You have villainized Ravan way beyond how he needs to be villainized. So I want to ask you, is he the quintessential villain for you in your version of the mythology?
This thing of hero villain is a rather modern Western concept, and they're very loaded words. The translation of hero and villain in Sanskrit Nayak and Khalnayak don't actually mean those things. Khalnayak doesn't exactly translate as villain. Nayak means that who carries the story forward, the character who carries the story forward, and Khalnayak is the one who distracts from the story moving forward. So it's not as loaded, right, as hero and villain. And if you read the ancient versions of the Ramayana, look, I've read many versions of the Ramayana, or been told them through my family, Valmiki Ramayana, Ramcharitmanas, Kamba Ramayanam, Kritibashi Ramayana, Advut Ramayana, Anand Ramayana. There are so many. Now, most of the versions of the Ramayana don't see Ravan as a pure monster. But they never show him as a hero either. They show him in a nuanced way. That, of course, he had bad points, and those bad points are spoken of. And we all know them, no control over his ego, no control over his anger, no control over his desires. But his good points are also spoken of. The fact that he was a very knowledgeable man. He was a master of the Vedas. He was a brilliant musician. He was a fierce warrior. Those good points are also spoken of. And as you said, rightly, he was a devout worshipper of Lord Shiva. He had the blessings of Lord Shiva. So our ancestors saw things in a far more nuanced way. And perhaps we could learn from our ancestors on how to see things.
Yeah, but then, there is also this debate on whether who exactly is saying what about Indian mythology, and would people not take it coming from, a person from another religion. Anyway, the reason why I'm asking you this question is because at a time there are ban calls for movies and ads over depiction of Hindus and Hindu customs. More recently, this ad by Aamir Khan showing a Greh Pravesh flip or a reversal. You think we have become an extremely oversensitive society where we can't stand any creative liberty being taken by an artist?
Sanket, this can be answered at a few levels. That the first thing is we must realize, at least those who live in big cities, that look, Twitter is not India. If Twitter was actually India, India would be in chaos. But on a per capita violence basis, India is actually among the most peaceful nations on earth on a per capita violence basis. The violent crime rate in New York or Boston is 10 times the violent crime rate in Indian big cities, despite Western police forces being much larger, their court systems being much better. We all know how our court system is, tariq par tariq. Justice, rarely gets done on time. Our police forces are undermanned. So why is our violent crime rate low? Because I suspect most Indians are actually intuitively far more peaceful. We don't take to violence as easily as many other countries, including developed countries in the West. The second point, I find no problems if words are answered with words. If I put out a creative piece of work, someone else has the right to like it or dislike it. As long as words are answered with words, there is no problem. There's a problem if words are answered with violence. That is unacceptable. And like I said, that happens often in many other countries. In India, frankly, it doesn't happen that often. And I think the third thing to speak of is, and this is happening in many democracies across the world, I'm sure you've heard of John Nash's game theory. And if there is one or two or a few communities which take offense and respond to words with violence, and many other communities don't do that, they respond to words with words. Then according to John Nash's game theory, the Nobel Prize winning John Nash, this is not a stable equilibrium. It can move in one of two directions. Either everyone starts taking offense and responding to words with violence, or nobody takes offense and responds to words only with words. It will move in one of these two directions. This is happening in democracies across the world. Every community, I would hope every community responds to words with words. Words should not be responded to with violence.
True. And in that context, the perfect response to an ad should be another ad, or a perfect response to a movie should be another movie. And speaking of that, or every response to a book should be a book. And I want to ask this final question to you, Amish. Do you ever fear that you too could be a victim of cancel culture or moral police, as many of the artists are.
I've been in this field for 12 years. I've come out with 10 books. Have you heard any controversy around me? No, right? And luckily for me, I get love and support from people of all sides of the ideological spectrum, all sides of the political spectrum, because I think I speak with the pride of our Indian traditions, and I also speak with a liberal, inclusive spirit, because I think our traditions are actually very liberal and inclusive. I see no reason for anyone to whether you like or dislike my books, that's up to you, right? But I see, there has never been a reason for someone to get offended, because I write with respect. And the proof of the pudding is in the eating. I mean, I don't think you would have read any controversy around me.
Let's hope it remains that way. But thank you so much and congratulations on your new book. Thank you very much, Amish, for joining us. With that, it's a wrap in this edition. News and updates continue on the other side.